After so many years of living by other people's expectations, I began to ask myself, who am I beyond the roles given to me? I feared I had never known myself, and I was right to. Who am I when I strip away all the stories that others have written about me? It was a slow, aching process, peeling back those layers of who I was told to be, one by one, until I could glimpse the real me. I never discovered me until I was in my late 40s, but it was necessary. For far too long, I had been living in someone else's outline, following a script written by my family and friends that didn't know how to let me just be myself. The concept of a family as a computer program helped me to understand it all. If you follow the rules, you get approval and stability. If you deviate, you become the error, the malfunction that needs to be fixed. I had been labelled as the error for so many years. My feelings were too loud, my thoughts too complex, my emotions too raw. I was too sensitive. I couldn't exist in the program the way I was, so I learned to break myself into something acceptable until I became a version of me that even I barely recognised. But the truth is, we're not born with labels. We are not junk, nor are we broken if we don't conform to those rules. The script we are given in life tells us who we are, what we're meant to be, and how we should behave. But that script is not us. It's a construct, a collection of voices that have shaped us, not who we truly are. And when we start listening to our own voice again, we begin to understand that the real us is not the echo of what others said we should be. This journey of self-discovery is not about proving anything. I have nothing to prove. I embarked on it because I wanted to reconnect with the version of myself that had been buried beneath years of expectation. It was about finding the child who had the right to a voice, a child who believed in the magic of imagination and the truth of the earth, a child who knew that the sun and the stars were all part of the greater mystery. That child had to disappear for my survival, but now, in 2026, I am learning to let them return. Rediscovering who I am means trusting the voice that has always been there. It's not a script, it's not a rule book, but a guide. And for the first time in my life, I am choosing to follow it, not run from it. My journey is not unique. Many people find themselves trapped in the roles and expectations handed down to them. I didn't grow up in a house of intentional cruelty, but in one where emotional neglect was the norm. I didn't come from a place of bad parenting, but one of where no one really knew how to be a parent, and that is the hardest part. The truth is, many of us are raised in the same way, without the tools to understand our emotions, without the knowledge of how to offer comfort, without the awareness that our children may not always be okay just because we are. The most important lesson I want to pass on is this. We can't change the past, but we can change the future. I told my sons again and again that I didn't blame my parents for how they raised me. They were learning as they went, and all parents do. But we must not repeat the mistakes of the past just because they were the norm. We must be the change. If there are things in our upbringing that were rough or unfair, we must change them. If we notice that our children are not being heard, not being seen, not being loved in the way that they need to be, it is our responsibility to correct it. This is relevant to how we all live in 2026, because the youth of today are also enduring emotional and mental neglect. Parents and parenting responsibilities are being left up to the children themselves, who live an extremely short childhood. And it is all things AI and internet that educate them, entertain them, or seemingly soothe them, not the parents. The voice that guided me through my darkest days was not gone. It was just waiting for me to listen again. And that voice is not mine alone. We all have one. It is part of us that knows truth, that knows what we need. I wish I had have listened to it sooner, had trusted it more completely. Instead, I spent years silencing it, believing that pleasing others was more important than understanding myself. Self-discovery is a lifelong process, but it is one worth taking. It is about breaking the chains of the past and finding the strength to be who we truly are. It's about learning to see ourselves not as a product of someone else's expectations, but as a master of our own story. If I've learned anything, it is this. We are all capable of more than what we were ever told. We are all worth more than what we were ever given. And the best part? It's never too late to start believing in ourselves. You are not a broken version of their story. You are a whole new one. For most of my life, I lived with a quiet, persistent feeling of being an alien in my own world. It was a loneliness that went deeper than simply not having someone to talk to. It was the ache of never really being seen. I've never met anyone who feels the same way I do about art and music, or who understands the currents that pull me to be creative. I wasn't just painting melodies or writing verses. I was trying to solve problems to reach for levels of awareness that felt like home to me, even if they were worlds away from the people who raised me. When I realised they couldn't follow me there, the disappointments were profound. It felt like a fundamental failure of family and friendship. I think they knew about these deeper things somewhere in the quiet corners of themselves. But in the world where I grew up, that kind of searching was labelled weird. It wasn't accepted and not appropriate for children to be concerned with or experiencing. And so in their eyes, I didn't just become different, I became frightening. I spent years trying to fit, mirroring the people around me, especially partners. But I became a mirror that they didn't want to look into. My very presence was a reminder of their own limitations, of the parts of themselves that they had chosen to silence. That's why the control began, the subtle and not so subtle attempts to manage me. It was never about me. It was about their fear of what I might become. I never wanted to be better than anyone else. I just wanted to share the experience, be myself, and to find a common frequency that I could share with them. But my strengths were seen as weaknesses. And because I've always been afraid of conflict, I tried to live with honesty and do what was right. I accepted them, believing everyone had the capacity for good. They in turn treated me badly. They didn't walk away because they didn't want to be the bad guy. They stayed and they blamed me for the discomfort that they felt, until it was so unbearable that something had to give, and that give was usually me. It took me decades to realise that I was still running on old software, reacting to a program that I didn't choose. That programming is still a part of me, but I'm no longer just following its code, I'm fighting it. My real self, the one that I'm still getting to know, will only emerge when I stop defining myself by their reflections and start defining myself on my own terms. True independence begins when you get angry enough to say, "Screw you." But it's only complete when you stop caring about their influence altogether, when you're indifferent, when the noise that they make in your head goes silent. Our society is built to avoid the mirror. We're taught to build our identities around our trauma, our upbringing, our heartbreaks. Letting go of the blame means letting go of that entire identity, and it's terrifying. But part of becoming your true self is taking radical responsibility for what you think and for what you do. Your mistakes, your weaknesses, your failures. And I know this because I'm not perfect. I've made many mistakes. I accept that others might blame me for their own pain, but I am the only one who can decide what is true for me in my own time. If you admit that your thoughts and actions are your responsibility, you can no longer make excuses. And without excuses, lies become pointless. Most people prefer the comfort of lies. I choose the raw, lonely, honest truth. Many think that rebellion is about defiance, doing the opposite of what you're told. That's just another rule. True rebellion is in refusing to lie to yourself, even when the truth is hard and even when it is lonely. They gave you the script and you are the editor. When you finally step off the path that they laid down for you, you see something remarkable. The people who raised you weren't villains. They were just doing the best with a broken script that they were given and never thought to question it. They gave you the rules, the code. They handed you the baggage. But you are the one who gets to decide what to edit, what to carry, and what to leave on the side of the road forever. By taking responsibility for yourself, you break the cycle. You stop being a character in their story and start writing your own. The truth that I'm searching for isn't a final destination that I'll arrive at one day. It's a way of living. It's how I choose to walk through the world in each and every day, refusing to let the ghosts of yesterday dictate my today. Nothing stays the same. Everything is changing, and our understanding has to change with it. I'm just trying to understand myself and my place in this world, and I'm finding a way to say no to the hurt, to build something new that doesn't fit into the old system. Because all that art, all that music, everything I create and created, that they didn't understand, it was never meant for them. It was for me. I want to believe in myself, but I'm learning that I need something to believe in first. I need to see that this path of honesty, this new story that I'm writing, is real. And I'm learning that the most meaningful thing to believe in is the quiet, brave, and unwritten truth of who I am. This is why I share this. I'm not asking for validation. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for praise. I'm simply sharing so that others can learn.